The Fort Bend Association of Parents for Academic Excellence. Our today's presentation is going to be on the social and emotional health of our students during COVID-19. My name is Jiggy, President for PACE this year. I would like to welcome you all for attending this event. When we were discussing about what events we should be planning for this year, I know one thing that all of us felt very strongly was that we need to do something for how we can help our students. As parents, what can we do to help our children and even ourselves? This is something unlike any other times that we are going through. And so this was a unanimous idea that came across from all the board members. So I am so glad that we decided to go ahead and do this presentation. And our presenter is going to be Jenni Schlett, who is going to be introduced very shortly. But just a little bit about PACE. We are a nonprofit association, and we are not affiliated with Fort Bend ISD, but I will say I am proud of the collaboration and the relationship that we have with the district. And especially Dr. Lori Westfall, who is the director of the Gifted and Talented department. She has been a very good support for us, and she has even helped us secure the Zoom meeting today. So thank you so much, Dr. Westfall. I would also like to thank my board members, especially Angie Hannon, who is our immediate past president, Nadine Skinner, who is our secretary, Nehal Dave, our treasurer, Kathy Wynn, who is our publicity person, Deepshika Singh, who is our events chair and president-elect. And then we have Rachel Jung and Anu Asthana, who are our at-large board members. And then Anton, who has agreed to do our web, who is also doing it with Angie Hannon. Thank you so much. Without these wonderful ladies, it would not have been possible to bring programming like this. We are all, again, it's a nonprofit association, and we are all parents. And the biggest goal and our mission is to help parents and help them support their children in the educational needs. So without any further ado, I would now like to invite Miss Angie Hannon, who is our immediate past president of PACE, but I think she has been associated with PACE for more years than I know, because PACE was the first thing that I got introduced to 6 years ago when I moved here to Houston. So I would like Angie Hannon to please kindly introduce Jenni Schlett, our presenter today.
Good morning, and thank you, Jigisha. Again, I also extend my gratitude to Fort Bend ISD for helping us this morning and allowing us to use a Zoom platform that they have, and Dr. Lori Westfall helping us from the GT department. My name is Angie Hannon, and I will tell you that I'm honored to introduce Jenni Schlett this morning. When our group of executive board members sat down to do our planning for the events, we knew that we needed to address the social emotional health of our kids during the time of COVID. And I'm going to be honest, we looked around and trying to find just the right person to do this. And a very close family friend of mine has been sending her child to Jenni for quite some time, and Jenni came to me highly recommended as a person who knows how to talk and work with teens. So without further ado, let me tell you a little bit more about Jenni. So Jenni Schlett is a licensed professional counselor. And she's been doing this work for over 14 years and has logged over 10,000 hours of direct client contact. And the clients that she specializes in is working with children and teens and also families in many areas, such as working through issues that surround anxiety, depression, self-esteem, executive functioning, and a whole host of other things. She comes to us with wonderful credentials. I know moms and dads out there, it means a lot to know, to me, that Jenni has a bachelor's in science in elementary education. And when she was teaching, she focused on special education and early childhood. She got her bachelor's of science at Sam Houston State. She got her master's in psychology from Houston Baptist University. So now she's part of her own counseling business, and it is called R.E.A.C.H Family Therapy, and it stands for Relationship, Empowerment, Action, Courage, and Hope. And then I think one of her finest assets in expertise is that she is a mom of 3 teenage kids. So she's got twins in 7th grade, and she's got a senior. So she's walked more than her share of miles working with her own kids, as well as children who belong to other parents. So without further ado, thank you so much, Jenni. I'm so glad that you're here with us today. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. What a nice welcome. Goodness gracious. Yes. So I am so excited to be here, and I'm honored that y'all even thought to ask me to participate. So thank all of you guys. And I totally agree. I feel like this is such a huge topic, especially right now during COVID. I'm seeing so many kids and teens and their parents coming in right now in my practice struggling with a lot of anxiety and a lot of just unrest, not knowing how to handle this new normal. And so it is such a here and now very important topic. So thank you for the introduction. And I think absolutely me having 3 kids, I want everybody to know that yes, I'm a therapist and all that, but I'm also, first and foremost, I'm a parent. And I couldn't help the kids I help if I didn't understand the struggles of being a parent, especially a parent of teens right now. So if all of y'all watching, if you leave this, take anything away from this presentation, I want it to be that that you're not alone, and that you don't have to go through this alone. We're supposed to be there to help do this together. So on that note, let's get to start. So I want to talk about first what we're going to cover today. Today we're going to cover why is social emotional health a big deal. Okay. Next, isolation, right? We're all experiencing isolation. Our children are experiencing it, social distancing and all of this. And there are risks for our kids during COVID-19. Then we're going to talk about anxiety, especially in our gifted kids and our high achieving children, especially during COVID. And then the last big chunk that we're going to talk about is depression during the global pandemic. And I really feel like it all flows. It's kind of like a downhill slide. You start with, why is this doing this? Let me go back. You start with feeling isolated, and that moves into, from isolation, you're moving into feeling anxious, and your anxiety increases, which then in turn can lead to depression. So let's start with social emotional health and learning. What is it? Why is it a big deal in the first place? Well, what it is it's the ability for people to understand and manage their emotions, their reactions, and their relationships. The reason that this is really focused on our gifted and high achieving kids is because they demonstrate a greater maturity in some domains, right? And not so much maybe, and more of an average in others. So they could be at a greater risk for more specific kinds of like social emotional difficulties if their needs are not met. Okay, so it is crucial that to our children being able to be successful with academics, they have to have that social and emotional foundation before the academics and whatnot can actually really be successful, if you will. It really does come before everything else. And so here we go. Social, emotional health and learning, of course, it is a huge deal. And I want to tell you a little bit of history background as to why, I guess why I feel like it is such a big deal is something called asynchronous development. Okay, asynchronous development is what some say is the backbone to gifted and high achieving children, to their whole makeup. And that's when social, emotional, physical, intellectual, and their creative aspects of a person develop on a trajectory that is outside of the norms, if you will. So in regular terms, what that means is, say you have a 6-year-old, a gifted, 6-year-old, but they have like a 9-year-old's mind. Okay, they're ahead of the curve, if you will, and they want to say draw or write like a 9-year-old, but their motor development, their motor coordination is not there yet. It's still there of a 6-year-old. Okay, so you see that discrepancy. That's that asynchronous development that is prevalent, obviously, in our gifted and high achieving children. Another example, say for older kids, a gifted child, and I've seen this in my kids, a gifted child may cognitively understand the difficult concepts of death, social justice, social injustice, but they might not have the life experience to really handle those concepts yet because there is that gap. So as I'm talking about this, if you can kind of relate, in the comments, give a thumbs up, shoot a thumbs up to us to see if this is something that like, you're like, oh my gosh, yes, of course. I've known my kid is gifted. I know my kid's a high achiever, but I didn't really think about it this way. So put a comment in there and so that we can see. Let me go back. Okay. And then y'all let us know if people feel like they can relate. So going into that asynchronous development, why we're talking about it with this is because social relationships can become very difficult. As the gap widens, that those outliers are going to get more and more pronounced. And so social relationships are going to become more problematic. You're going to have kids that are coming home saying, my friends don't understand me. They say I'm weird, or why do they play this? I don't want to do that. That's like what babies do. I want to do this instead. Why are my friends not interested in the same thing I'm interested in? Okay. So this progressive, as our kids get older, like my teenagers, the gap is going to get wider, and you're going to notice in your children, you're going to hopefully not, but start seeing some of this out of sync development behavior, like because they realize that they are not where their peers are. So an example of that is, say the 6-year-old that is has that 9-year-old brain and wants to write and draw like a 9-year-old will eventually become the 12-year-old with the 18-year-old mind. And a 12-year-old walking around with the cognitive intellectual development of an 18-year-old is not going to fit in with the other 12-year-olds. And all kids want is to fit in with their peers. Okay, so that's when you're going to start seeing some of that anxiety, some fear, some depression, I just want to fit in, what is wrong with me, when really nothing is wrong with you. So if you all have a child like that you can relate to, leave us a comment. Okay. So now that we've kind of gone over the background, I want to go into isolation. And what are the risks, obviously due to COVID, but what are the risks but what are the risks with high achieving, gifted children? Okay. And one of the big ones is if you have a child that is extroverted and they have this high social drive. I have one child that is very much like that, my little social butterfly, she was super duper affected by the isolation at the very beginning because getting together with people was her entire world. I have another child, one of the twins, who loved it. Just let me be in my room and play my video games with my friends because we don't get together in person. So you're going to have, even if you have different personalities in the same household, right? But it is a big deal. It's not just, oh my gosh, you can handle not being around your friends for a little while, deal with it. It's a big fundamental developmental milestone to be social. And a lot of our kids have missed that. So going into this, it's hardest, obviously, on teens. It's hardest on adolescents because their whole world is their social makeup, is their, it's when their friends start to become more important than their family. And I know as parents, it can get, that can feel frustrating, but developmentally, they have to go through that. And so what we're seeing with our teens right now is that social drive is so key to what they're doing developmentally because they need to connect. That need is very, very powerful. And their impulse control is not there yet. I don't know a teen that has very good impulse control, but being in those social experiences is what helps our teens in real time develop impulse control. Well, if they're not able to get out and practice that, the research is showing, what we're now seeing is they're not making good choices, more than they already aren't making good choices. But they are so socially driven, that it does present some risks, unique risks, really, to their mental health down the road. And then, so what do you look for as a parent? Okay. What do you look for in your child who has been experiencing this social distancing for months now? You're going to look for irritability. You're going to look for sadness related to being lonely over the top of maybe what you have typically seen. Okay. Changes in weight. That's actually a really big one. Losing weight or putting on extra weight. Sleeping all the time or not sleeping at all. During the last year, at the end of the year, when there was really no structure, but we were all home with the kids and they were trying to do school, I remember coming into the kitchen in the morning and my oldest was in there getting a snack. He hadn't gone to bed yet. And it was kind of funny, but over the long term, that's not healthy. And that's going to affect their mood. It's going to affect their mental state. So look for that. The other one is headaches and stomach aches. Are they experiencing those like somatic symptoms where how they're feeling mentally is now presenting physically? More on the extreme, substance use to self-medicate in maybe our older kids. They're bored, that they want something to do, so let's just vape or let's try this more than we've tried before, kind of thing. And then the biggest extreme is suicidal ideation, especially of course in adolescence, is look out for not just your kids saying I wish I was dead, or I should just die, but really and truly that depth of despair. There's nothing to live for. This world is horrible. Why am I here? Those are those triggers you need to look for. Okay, and as I'm bringing these up, as I'm bringing up some of this stuff, leave a comment if there's a behavior that you parents have noticed in your children that kind of can relate to this, okay? Leave me a comment. So what parents can do to help? This is the part I know everybody's kind of looking for. What parents can do to help? You got to acknowledge the new reality, okay? You have to really shift your goal from, hey guys, everything's going to be fine. We're going to be okay. And everything's going to go back to the way things were. We're not going back to the way things were. Will we have COVID forever? No. but we're not going to go backwards. And so you can't, it's not, the kids pick up on when we're placating them. Okay. So you have to acknowledge the new reality, and you have to try not to fix it for them. Really try to focus on connection. And I know as the older your kids get, the harder that is, but you have to get creative. Keep an open dialogue with them. Be present and available for them, just to come and like dump. But just listen. So many times I have parents that, and I'm the same way, I want to fix it. I want to take away that pain and sadness. I want to entertain them if they're bored. I want to not have them be sad. But sometimes that can send the wrong message. That can send the message of, you can't do it on your own. You're not capable enough to handle your feelings. And so it sounds simplistic, but it really is complicated. And it's very important. We need to help our children be okay with what they're feeling when they're feeling it. Okay. Moving into, so the isolation can then move into, or it can be separate from, anxiety. And anxiety is one that I am seeing in my practice. I've always had kids come in with anxiety, but I am seeing it to such an elevated degree right now. Whether these children are coming in and they're doing virtual online school, or whether they're going back into the classroom, or whether they are doing a different, like a homeschool model. Just this whole elephant in the room of COVID is overwhelming for our kids. I don't care how young or how old they are. So why is that? Why is it important, or why is it maybe different in our gifted and high achieving children? Here's why. There's 4 like key characteristics. Social coping is the first one. And what that means is our kids aren't going to express anxiety in, say, the way that is very clear. They're not going to come up to you typically and say, Mom, I'm really anxious right now, or I'm terrified, or I'm really sad, or I'm afraid. They're either going to express it in behavioral, crying, behaving aggressively, extra moody, withdrawal, isolation. And so we have to read between the lines and look for that. So social coping is where our gifted kids specifically, they feel different. Okay. They just feel different. And that's going to lead to anxiety. It's that asynchronous gap that we were talking about earlier. Another one is the big fish, little pond effect. And this is where our gifted kids, they have like this deflated self-concept, or they can, when they say are moving from like a mixed ability class, like say I'm just a GT student, if you will, in a regular classroom, and then they move into an all GT class, and they're like, oh, wow, I'm not like super extra special. That can lead to an anxiety that they don't even realize they have. The third one for gifted kids is hitting the wall. And that means, and I've seen this so often, that means when the first encounter our child has that requires them to put forth more effort than they have in the past, right? So if things have always come easy to them, and then all of a sudden, boom, now they have to really struggle at something. I see it so often where they just say, I'm not going to do it. If I'm not perfect at it at the very beginning, I must be terrible at it, so I'm not going to do it. And that's like hitting the wall. Let me go back. Okay, and then the last one is giftedness in itself. And this is what we're about to talk about. Giftedness in itself is a source of anxiety, because the social emotional characteristics that contribute to anxiety in gifted kids cause anxiety. And that's what we're going to go into right now. This is like my favorite part, I guess, if you will.
So Jenni,
we're going to talk. Yes.
We have a couple of parents who have actually shared comments and said what they are seeing in their children. So I'll share those.
Fantastic.
I have eating as anxiety relief.
Yes.
My daughter said all the things that used to calm her or make her happy isn't working anymore.
Yes.
Increased appetite.
Yes.
My son is being isolated since online learning.
Mm-hmm.
Irritability, headache, loss of appetite.
Yes.
particularly lower levels of energy and motivation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I know I wrote that, as college counselor, I'm seeing a lot of 18-year-olds who are not even off to college and be an adult.
Yes. Yes. And it's
Somebody has written she sees irritability in her 12-year-old.
mm-hmm.
Another one has written, my kid told me not seeing other kids, even if she doesn't talk to them, makes her feel lost. The multiple inputs that have challenged her makes her feel dumber. Lowest level of tolerances about anything.
Mm-hmm.
I feel the hitting the wall with my kid. He feels like he is not good enough at times. I mean, those are so touching, and I
Wow.
feel that all of us as parents are going through so many similar emotions with our kids.
Yes. Yes. And as a parent myself, it's like I had a parent in a session tell me this, and I was like, oh my gosh, that is so me too. It's like when our child hurts, it like physically, we feel it physically. Like I have a physical pain that I can't just sit and be okay when my child is hurting. But the hard part is I can support them, but I also can't fix it for them. But I know that's where it's excruciating as a parent is it's like watching something being set on fire and you can't put it out. And it's awful. I know it's horrible. Um, so thank y'all for sharing those. I mean, wow, I am right there with you. We are all right there with you. Like I said, um, I can so relate. Um, so here's the next part. I want y'all to leave some characteristics, leave some comments as we're talking about sponges, gears, and mirrors, because I want y'all to think about, is this your child? Are some of these your kid? Or are all of them parts of your child? Um, and so I'll tell you why. So sponges, gears, and mirrors. I picked these analogies, okay? Basically, these, just because this is what comes to my mind when I think of these characteristics. These are characteristics, three main characteristics in our gifted children that can lead to anxiety, okay? So as I'm talking, leave a comment with and this will make sense in a second, with your idea, your character, your symbol that comes to mind as we're talking about each of these. I want to see what other people think. So we're going to start with sponges, okay? Sponges are our children that are highly sensitive. 20% of the population has the trait of high sensitivity. It's just like blue eyes, brown eyes, tall, short, which means 80% of our entire world population does not have this trait. And so it can feel like there's something wrong with our child. Even as an adult, you can feel like, what is wrong with me? These sponges experience the world basically like in high definition. So I say sponge because they absorb everybody's emotions around them. They can sense them. They think about them. They try to interpret them. They pick up on all the subtleties in their space. They can pick up on, they're the ones that you can feel the itch of your tag in your shirt. They're the ones that can walk into a room and notice the fan sound, or notice the picture on the wall, or look at the teacher in the classroom. And if the teacher doesn't smile at them, they're like, oh geez, what's wrong? Is she having a bad day? Did I do something wrong? So they are just little balls of absorbing, they absorb everything, their whole world. And the reason it can cause anxiety, obviously, is if they're so aware of, say, their parents, their teacher, their peers, attitude or emotion, what they're feeling in the moment, that they can tend to think that it's their fault. They're very, very, very aware of disapproval, and all they want to do is please and help. And they tend to really feel responsible when their parents are even unhappy. My son is like this, just to an extreme level. There were times when he was younger where I would be in the kitchen cooking and I would just sigh, and he'd be on his, watching TV or playing a video game, and he'd turn around and come in and say, Mom, are you okay? And I'd say, yeah, I'm fine. But Mama, you sighed. Oh, okay. I didn't realize I did. Mom, did I do something wrong? I'm sorry. I love you. And so if you can imagine what that level of being aware of and being nervous and worried that, somebody's not happy with you, they carry that with them all day long. That leads to anxiety. So I think of it as sponges. Another example I thought about would be Eeyore from, no, not Eeyore. Spider-Man, yeah, Spider-Man. That's right. We'll get to Eeyore. Spider-Man, like the Spidey sense, he has he can sense what's going on around him. That's kind of like what this is. So let me know if you can kind of relate to that with your child. Next one is gears. Gears are our children that have this analytical attitude. It's a gifted child's like propensity, if you will, to question, evaluate, analyze, judge everything and everyone around them. Not in a way to be like, oh, I'm so much better than y'all, but they're truly inquisitive. They're the ones, my son is like this too. They're the ones that ask for, they ask the big questions that I can't tell you how many times my son has asked me these mind-blowing, deep questions, and I'm like, I don't know. That's a huge question. But where they can face some criticism is when, say you're in class and the teacher makes a mistake and that child corrects the teacher, not to be disrespectful, but just because they know the right answer. In our society, that can look like disrespect. Teachers, not all teachers, but some teachers could take that as, don't correct me. That's really rude and disrespectful, when that was not the child's intention whatsoever. So they face that criticism, which then causes their anxiety to skyrocket in an outward way. So I remember at one point my son came to me and said, Mom, do I ask too many questions? And I said, no, of course not. I love that you ask questions. Why? Well, at school, they told me that I asked too many questions. And that was heartbreaking, because why would they squash that, But his anxiety kicked in because he felt like it wasn't normal. So gears, thinking of somebody who's a gear, I thought of Vilma from Scooby-Doo, right? Another one would be like a walking encyclopedia or a walking computer. Sheldon from the Big Bang Theory, or Sherlock Holmes, So if you can relate to that, if you have a kiddo that fits in that, let us know. And as we're saying this, if there are parts, if you have another idea instead of like a gear that comes to mind, tell us what it is. I would love to hear for the sponge, if you have another thought, like, oh, I would think about it like this, or a gear, oh, I think about it like this, and how it relates to your child, let us know. So then we go to mirrors. Okay. Mirrors are our children who are overly critical of themselves. Okay. They turn their intelligence, they turn their giftedness onto themselves. So it's like always looking in the mirror and not liking what you see. They become like, they are the ones, I think of sort of Eeyore. This is where Eeyore came in. They're the ones that they focus on their deficits, like anything they've done wrong, instead of all the things they've done right. Like I had a kiddo in my office yesterday, and mom was congratulating him for making a 95 on his test. And the first thing he said was, well, it wasn't a 100. And I mean, that's just so sad that, it's that perfectionistic attitude, I'm not good enough. I'm not doing everything right. I'm not making the best grades. I'm not pleasing my parents. I'm not the fastest, yes, I beat the record for the most push-ups at school, but I didn't beat the record from last year, so I'm not good enough. So I always think about that like as a mirror. You know, we're always criticizing the way we look and things like that in a mirror. Another idea for a mirror, like I said, would be Eeyore. Beauty and the Beast would be the Beast, because he kind of hated himself for who he was, right? Actually, he even had a mirror. Didn't think about that. So that creates a lot of internal conflict and anxiety for our children. So mirrors, gears, sponges. Your child can be a little bit of all three, or they could be specifically one. So what do you...
Jenny, I'm going to stop here and share a few of the comments that we've received from parents.
Okay.
They have so much related to the mirror, gears, and sponges.
Oh, good.
So many of them are writing, the teacher and external environment can great impacts on our children. They pick up on the emotional vibe. Sponge is my oldest daughter. She always thinks I'm judging her when I ask her a question or want to give a tip. Both my girls will notice the slightest twitch on my face, totally absorbing all my emotions.
Yes.
Some parents are also writing that they're really grateful for this meeting because they can relate to everybody's comments and regarding their children and what everyone is going through.
I'm so glad.
We have someone who has written, GT teacher. I wish all GT teachers would hear this at all grade levels. This and about gears. This is my second daughter. She's always asking questions to the point that I get frustrated because sometimes I can't take the 100 questions per hour. And then I'm frustrated that I expressed that frustration.
Yes.
She's also critiquing when others are not doing things right. These children need time to get clarification on emotions they're picking up or feeling.
Yes.
3 categories are common characteristics of giftedness. The further from these mean, the higher the SD, the more prevalent the characteristics. Agree. How can we bring to our kids without the from parents label? And then we had an interesting question, which, I mean, the chat is just going on, so I'm losing track of the chat. Angie, do you see that question? The self-related.
Yeah. If I in the chat, Jenny, someone asked a really good question, and it was concerning. You know, do you have any advice for those kids who have self-esteem that has just sort of deflated? You know, especially currently. Is there a tip for parents? You know, because just saying good job, you know, great with the 95, because then we have the kid that comes back and says, but it wasn't 100. So if you have any maybe tips, and maybe you'll get to that.
Yeah. So one of the things I would say for parents is try to normalize what your child is experiencing. You know, like, yes, we have a propensity to say, but you did so good. It's a 95. You shouldn't be upset. You should be proud of yourself, right? When we put those shoulds and shouldn'ts, subliminally, that sends the message to our kid, dang, I'm not doing it right again. Right. And that's not the message we mean to send, but our children that already have some low self-esteem and self-confidence and self-worth hear that as, oh, okay, so mom's correcting me again. So now I'm not doing it right by saying I should have gotten a 100, and she doesn't even understand. So just with that example, it's in this, I don't know, it sounds strange, but it's more really about the parent and how the parent approaches that child's statement. The parent needs to we have to try to validate what they're saying, right? So like yesterday when my kiddo said, you know, well, I got a 95, and mom was like, yeah, you got a 95. And he said, well, it should have been 100. What you need to say is something along the lines of, yeah, I understand. That must be tough because you wanted 100. But you know what? I'm proud of you. You did great, you know? Maybe next time you'll get 100. Cool. You know what I mean? Like, don't minimize their grandiose feelings, if you will. Okay. Because it gives them the wrong message. And then meet them wherever they are. Right. I think a lot of this low self-esteem and self-worth, especially right now, is coming from I'm not good enough. Right. Or my mom or dad, and it's not just the parents, but that's who we're around the most right now. My parents don't approve of the way that I feel. Okay. You know, like say with kiddos that are these sponges, these highly sensitive kids, and I'll talk about this in a sec, but one of the biggest things that you have to really work hard not to do is not to say, oh my gosh, you are so sensitive, or why are you crying? It's not a big deal. Or, you know, don't correct me. You know, my daughter, any word that I might say that isn't pronounced the way she thinks it should be said, it's now this joke in our family because she'll correct me. And, you know, the human side of me can be like, excuse me, stop, don't do that. But she's not doing it to be disrespectful. She's doing it. So if I shut that down, that sends her the message that that core personality part of herself isn't good. Does that make sense? So, you know, if kids want,
Yes, absolutely, Jenny.
yes, yes, yes. You know, especially our perfectionistic kiddos, which I would say most of these children that are these highly gifted, you know, advanced, high achieving kids, they're all perfectionists. And really, and is that great? No, it has its issues with that, obviously, but they don't want to just be perfectionists academically. They are striving to be perfectionists with their parents. And so, because their parents are the closest to them, and now that we're all home together so often, they're picking up all their social cues, all their social interactions right now are kind of with their parents. And so, yes, we're human and we're busy and we're having to work and we're having to cook dinner and we're having to manage everything. And so our tempers can get short, but our children are picking up on that, I guess, as, oh, I did it wrong again. I can't please you. I'm not good enough. Even though we're thinking, oh my God, no, that is not what I meant at all. Wow. But it's not about our perspective. It's about their perspective. We have to seek to understand where they're coming from and what their perspective is. I think that's a key. So yeah, so going into that, right, what to look for. You probably already know this. Look for the rigidity. Look for constant worrying. Predicting the future. We're seeing a lot of stuff right now with predicting that, oh gosh, we're all going to die. You know, this is never going to end. I'll never get to see my friends again. Things like that. And then big reactions to like seemingly small problems. Say a year ago, your child might not have a meltdown when you say, come to dinner. But now, given all this underlying stress and stuff, they just fall out. And you're going, what? Why are you, why are you having such a big reaction? This is ridiculous. It's unnecessary. That's something you need to look out for. That's a sign of, wow, you have a whole lot of anxiety going on inside of you. Obviously aggression, wow, you're like a volcano. Your temper is so short, your fuse is so short. What is going on with you? Well, they probably have a bunch of anxiety inside and they don't even realize it. And then, the opposite of that is withdrawal. Like I know some of the people in the comments said they're sleeping all the time or they're not eating anymore, or they are mindlessly eating, like I'm sure all of us have done, just checking out and watching Netflix or YouTube or something like that. Those are some of the big things that you need to look for when it comes to anxiety during this time right now. And then how parents can help. What can you do to help? A big one is you have to model for them. We have to be their models, okay? We have to model facing fears. We have to model that, yes, we don't have all the answers. We have to model that we're sometimes scared too. We need to model that we don't have it all together. They need to see that. If they see that if they think that we are smooth sailing, what that happens is then they worry, well, why am I not? Right? I need to be just like mom or dad. What they don't see though is mom and dad stay up, well past when they go to bed and stress and worry about everything. But we try to hide it from our kids. And to a degree, yes. But we have to model. I have to model making mistakes. I have to model apologizing. Like, wow, I lost my temper and I didn't mean to. And it wasn't about you. It was about something completely unrelated. And I'm sorry. And I know at first, I know that can sort of kind of be controversial, right? Like, I'm not apologizing to my child. I'm the parent. It's not really about that. It's about sending the message of we're all human. And it's okay and it's healthy and it's good to apologize when you're making a mistake, kind of thing. It's okay to say, you know what, guys, I have no idea when this is going to be over. And you're right, this is not cool. It's not fun. It's a bummer. They need to see you say that because that will help them feel a little bit more grounded. The other one I really like is I like this idea of like shades of gray. Most of our kiddos that are in these categories see things as all black or all white, right? There's no gray area. So it's either we're in the middle of a pandemic and the world is over, or there is no pandemic and everything's great. We got to help them see some of these shades of gray that there is some room, some wiggle room. Like, it's gotten better than it was at the end of last year. Is it still not perfect? It's not, but it's better than it was, and it can get better. And that not just with the COVID, that goes with their grades, that goes with their performance, that goes with failing a test or making a 95 instead of a 100. They're not naturally geared to seeing the gray parts, and we need to help them with that. And that goes into focusing on the process of things, not the outcome. Okay. So teaching your kids to consider like the here and now instead of predicting the future 100 years down the road. Right? Focus on right now.
Jenni,
yes.
Jenni, we have a question, and I don't want
Yeah.
to lose this question because I think it's important, and I think you're kind of alluding to it now. But
Okay.
One of our participants asked, how do you help your kids show the gray when you don't see it yourself?
Oof, that is phenomenal. So you know what? My first answer would be explain that to your child. Use that as a relatable moment and say, you know what? I totally understand where you're coming from because I don't see the gray either. And this is kind of really hard for me. So maybe we do this together. Maybe we figure it out together. Like, can you help me? And a lot of times our kiddos would be like, oh yeah, I'll help you. I'll totally help you, mom. And in helping the mom, they're helping themselves. Ask the dad, ask the another sibling, ask a friend, and have it be like a learning experience together. But I really feel like if you can humble yourself to not have the answer because you don't know how to do it, that is such a relatable bonding teaching moment between you and your child. It's okay to say, I have no idea. What should we do? How do we figure this out? Should we look it up? Do we Google it? Do we go talk to people? I think that is almost even better of a learning experience than a parent that does know the shades of gray. Because then you're walking through it with your child.
Thank you so much, Jenni. I appreciate it. Thanks for letting me interrupt to ask that.
No, I love that. Interrupt anytime. And that's such a good question for right now, because that's talking about that really is the process over the outcome. The outcome is not nearly as important as what you do to get there. Okay, that's where the teaching and the connection comes in, and the communication comes in, is walk through it with your child. Okay, another one that's more tangible, if you will, is like a feelings thermometer. And I use this in my office every day. With my younger kids, I literally, use a ruler or we draw, a thermometer. And, red is at the top and red is, I'm a volcano, I'm exploding because I can't manage my emotions. And down at the very bottom is maybe green because I'm feeling relaxed and calm and good. And I number it. And I do routine check-ins. Hey, what number are you at? Okay. I do that so that they can start to notice where they are, so that they can start to manage their emotions. But I'm also, the other part of that is you have to really, as a parent and a teacher and whatever, you have to really make sure that you don't try to fix it. Like, being in the red, being say at a 10 is not bad. It's just, what can we do if this doesn't feel good? What can we do to maybe get you down to a 9? Empower your child to walk through it with you. With older kids, I don't do all the drawings. I just say, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you? How can we get that down to a level that you feel better? And that's an easy one. It's a good visual. So now we move into depression, right? And depression, of course, is a result of, the isolation can lead to the anxiety, can lead to the depression, if you will. Gifted children are more prone to bouts of depression because they're highly sensitive. They have those high sensitivities. They tend to have perfectionistic qualities, that need to be a perfectionist. A lot of them are introverted, okay, which can kind of isolate you. Even the extroverted, high social drive kids can still experience bouts of like being introverted due to the fact that like they feel different than their peers. Okay, like they don't truly fit in. And then existential concerns, oh my goodness, these are the ones like the gears that are like, what's the meaning of life and why is this happening to us, and what's going to be the planet, mom, when you die and we're grown-ups, and what is it going to be like, and that can lead to profound depression. Research shows that 10% of gifted kids actually experience like clinical levels of depression. So what do you look for? What do you as the parent look for? And again, these all, talk about shades of gray. They all kind of tie in. The isolation, the anxiety, the depression, it kind of can all look like sort of the same thing in different ways. Look for strong reactions to criticism, because that can induce these feelings of helplessness. Look for your mirrors, your children that are overly critical of themselves, okay? Look for your kids, like my little guy yesterday, who experience frustration and anger with their achievements. It's never good enough, okay? And I'll absolutely look for continuous or new or exacerbated negative self-talk, and that, the poor self-esteem, because those, even if your child has already kind of experienced that, if they start experiencing it more frequently and your gut tells you something's not right, listen to your gut. And then, okay,
so
what can you do
Jenny, before you address this one, I think it goes so well with your last slide. A question, because there were several people that commented on your idea of a temperature check.
Yes.
And that notion of a visual thermometer. But someone did ask, how do you assess for happiness and joy? In other words, if a 10 is you're really heated and inflamed, would a 0 be joyful and happy, or would you recommend a happy, sad as 2 different temperature checks? Just help us, because we all want to use that idea. So help us understand how you use that a little bit.
Okay, so with younger kids that need that visual, a lot of times what I will do is I will start to draw it out on paper with them. And instead of me having like a worksheet with it written out and it's like this is what we're going to use. We're going to use, red is mad and a 10 is bad and 0 is we're great. I let the child start to fill it in for me. And I found, and I can send this out if people want examples, but I have like really incredible that I was given permission to use by these families, examples of one little guy. I was like, okay, we're going to do a feelings thermometer. And let's say red is, the top and it's 10 and it's an explosion and you just can't manage it. And 1 is where you just feel great. And I was all ready to color it green and just do what I'm used to. He took the colors and ran with it. He was like, oh, okay. So actually for me, the blue means I'm really tired but I'm still happy. And then it goes into the green, and the green means I'm really feeling like really good, but I'm not super tired. And then I think it's going to go in, and he drew this entire elaborate thermometer that related specifically to him. And so I felt like that was so just spot on, because if I had gone in with, here's how it is, red, green, blue, like the traffic lights, red means stop, yellow means you're in the warning zone, green means you're doing well. It's very limiting. And so if you have a child that wants to buy into it with you, you start it off and let them run with it, and whatever they want to create, it's perfect, because then they relate to it. So maybe ask in that question, ask your child, hey, so what would you put for when you feel really good? Is that a 0 or is that a 1? What color is that for you? What does that look like? Help me put it on here. And then they're buying into it, and it's theirs. They're owning it.
Yeah. So thank you, Jenni. Yes, that helped me. I hope that helped Allison out there that asked the question. Thank you.
I agree, Angie. It was a wonderful analysis.
Good. I'm so glad. And like I said, I don't know how all this works, but I have some really neat, these very different thermometer things that kids throughout the years have drawn, and I save all of it. So if there's a way I can send that on out to y'all, I would be more than happy to do that. Okay, and then just talking about that real quick for my older kids. Again, you don't want to make it seem babyish if you have a teenager. Obviously, I'm not going to draw on my whiteboard with colors, because they're going to think I'm just out of touch. So literally, and I know I said this a second ago, but what I'll do is, I did this the other day with a kiddo, a teen that is experiencing a lot of anxiety in new situations. And when he came in, I said, okay, so like on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being you are crawling out of your skin, having the biggest panic attack of your life. 1, you're in your happy place. You're chilling, you're doing your thing. What number were you when you came into the waiting room? And he kind of thought, and he was like, probably like an 8 or so. I said, okay. So now that you're in here in the office with me and you've had a chance to sit down, what number? Are you still at the same number? And he thought for a little bit, and he was like, no, I think I'm like at maybe like a 6. Okay, cool. All right. And so it's not me trying to fix it and make it go down. It's just helping start some awareness. And then as the session went on, towards the end, I was like, all right, so before you leave, are you still at the same, are you still at a 6? Are you up higher? Are you lower? And he was a little bit lower, and we just would walk through that. And that's all you have to do for the older ones. It's not teaching that self-regulation, if you will. It's helping them feel in control of where they are and how they can make it move up and down as they see fit. Okay, so that just going into what can you do to help. Big thing, don't criticize. We said this earlier. Don't criticize your kids for their characteristics that are just part of their personality, right? Don't say you're being too sensitive. Why do you cry all the time? Or toughen up, or suck it up, or you're too intense, or like my son, wow, you ask too many questions. Don't do that. Don't criticize those behaviors that are their unique personality traits. Try not to. Help practice resiliency skills. Those are like persistence. Okay. Giving up when stuff becomes hard, when you hit the wall, when you feel like you're the big fish in the little pond kind of thing, when you make a 95 and not a 100, when you try out for a sports team at school and you don't make it. Practice, help them practice that persistence, tolerance for making mistakes, tolerance for frustration, model some positive self-talk, set reasonable standards. So many times our children they are setting standards that are gonna set them up to fail because they want to achieve so high, right? So we're not dumbing it down, but help bring it back to, well, what's a reasonable goal for just right now, right? You don't have to be the best. You don't have to be the Olympic runner to try out for the track team. Just set a reasonable goal for yourself. It doesn't have to be so grandiose, because then they're setting themselves up to fail because their expectations are so high. Then it becomes like a vicious cycle or a self-fulfilling prophecy. Well, I knew I couldn't do it, so I'm just not going to try anything ever again. We got to kind of bring it back down to earth a little bit, if you will. Open communication. I would say this for everything is open communication. Let them know that you're there to listen. You're not there to all the time to fix and to correct and to critique unless they want it, but they can come to you. They can talk to you. We want our kids to want to be able to talk to us or feel comfortable, because a lot of times they're not going to feel comfortable talking to a teacher. And yes, they're going to feel comfortable talking to their peers, but they don't usually always have the best advice or knowledge or insight, right? And so I think the quickest way to stop communication, or the quickest way to stop or stifle that connection with your child, whether it's a teen or a little one, is to start preaching at them, right? As soon as they say something, you correct, or, well, actually it should be this way, or, you know what, that, just be an open vessel, if you will, just to listen. They'll come to you more if you can do that. So let's see. Is there any questions? I saw one question. What is your recommendation for a child being withdrawn all the time? Oh, pull them out. Pull them out as much as you can. Meet them where they are and try really hard to entice them, if you will. Don't fuss at them for being withdrawn. Try to engage with them. If they're on their phone and they're playing a game or something, or they're on the Xbox or whatever, this is crazy. Sit down with them. Hey, what are you doing? I want to play, or can I watch, or get a game of cards. I have a friend that plays, their whole family gets together, well, their family, to pull the teenage guys out of their rooms. They have a poker night, and even the mom and the little kids play, and it's just for fun. But you know, a poker night, cook together, play cards, play something silly together. Try anything you can to connect with them, but it's more about really trying to connect with them on their agenda, not necessarily your agenda. You got to look for their interests. Okay. It can't be, hey, come downstairs and watch the news with me. No, thanks. You know, hey, why don't tomorrow we're all going to cook together? Or, you know what, what's your favorite meal? Come help me cook it and we'll make it. You want to bake a cake? Can I sit and watch you play your video game? Hey, we're going to play this new weird game where, you know, blah, 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 blah downstairs. Things like that. That's what you have to continue to try to do. Meet them where they are. Don't wait for them to come to you, because if they're already withdrawn, they're not going to. But also being withdrawn, even your teens that are super moody, they want us to connect with them. They're not going to tell us that. But it's scary being isolated and withdrawn. And so even if you have a teenage boy that's like, what are you doing in here? Get out of my room. They still need you and want you. So you have to be the one that keeps trying. Does that make sense? You can't wait for them to want to come hang out with you. They're not there yet. It's your job. They need you without them saying it. They need you to keep being present, keep popping in, keep trying to engage them. It's like, gosh, there's an example I saw on Facebook or somewhere. It was incredible. It's a roller coaster, right? And they say, you know, raising teens is like, you know, teenagers are like being in a roller coaster. If you were in a roller coaster and you didn't strap that seat lock belt down, right? And you know, what does everybody do when they pull that lap belt down? We all shake it, like, to make sure it's like really locked and really tight, right? But we shake it a lot because it's like, man, if this comes up, I'm a goner. Raising teens and having a teen is the exact same thing. The teen is you're the lap belt, right? You're that safety harness. And that teen needs you to lock on them tight. And they're gonna shake and shake and shake and shake it and move it up and down and make it tighter to see if it stays. And if you let go and it flies up, that's terrifying. You are that safety belt, and they're gonna shake it, and that's what they're supposed to do, and you just keep holding on. Okay. Joshua Shipp, S-H-I-P-P, is the guy that came up with that. If you look him up, it's a brilliant, and I didn't do the right thing in explaining it the right way, but it is such a great analogy, and it helps me as a parent when I'm at my wit's end and frustrated and ready to just, you know, I don't know, kill my kids. You know, that really helps me remember, oh yes, I am doing the right thing. This is developmentally where we're supposed to be. So just a side note. Okay, so that takes me to kind of that's the end of the all of the conversation about all of this. I would love to answer more questions if there's more questions, but I wanted to say one more thing real quick before I forget. I put together a digital download, like a PDF cheat sheet, if you will, on a lot of the stuff that we've talked about, on like 4 very clear steps of what you as a parent can do to help your child during all of this with the depression, anxiety, isolation. And I wrote out for each little example some actual like words, some phrases, some statements you can use with your child. So if you guys would like that, shoot me an email and I will send that out to you just to have in your back pocket. We need all the resources we can get as parents. And so just email me, and I know y'all have the email address, but it's Jenni, Jenni, at reachfamilytherapy.net, all run together. So if you'd like that, I'd love to send it to you guys. And I want you to remember, you're not alone, and you don't have to go through this alone. So thanks for letting me talk.
Thank you so much, Jenni. I think this was such an amazing session. We have truly, truly, truly enjoyed with it. I do want to tell all the participants, before you leave, we have a little giveaway that we are going to be giving away some gift cards for our participants. And we have a wheel that one of our board members has created. Her name is Nehal Dave. Nehal, are you ready with the wheel?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
We're ready
let's
to
spin the
go.
wheel.
I just want to give an update. Everybody who wins, please send me, my screen name is Nehal Dave on this. Send me your email address. So this drawing is for $10 gift card of Panera Bread. So I will send it over. I think you all can see my screen, right?
I mean, usually we would have pastries. We would have pastries for all of you at our event in person. Since we cannot do it in person, we figured this would be a great way to share our pastries with you.
So here goes the first winner. Can you all see it, Jigisha?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Okay, here it goes. And Anna Jacques is the first winner.
Do we have Anna Baquez here? Is she still here?
Anna, if you are here, would you please type in the chat box? And if you're not sure how to get to the chat box, look at the lower part of your Zoom screen. Let's hold her place. And if we don't hear from her, shall we go ahead and reach out to her with her registration information, Jigisha?
If she's not here, let's move on and let's do it for the people who are here.
Okay, very good.
So I have removed her, and this is the second one. This person, somebody that said iPhone, and I already texted them to add the name, but they haven't done the name yet.
Okay, let's move on to the next.
Okay.
Who thought giving away pastry gift certificates would be so hard?
Crystal, is Crystal here?
I'm here.
Okay, can you please send me?
Please share your email in the chat box.
Okay, I'll do that.
Crystal, you can do it privately, so you don't have to share your email to the whole group. Just choose that you're sending it to Nehal Dave.
Okay, thank you.
The person with iPhone, can you share your name? Can you unmute yourself and share your name, please? And your email address. So it's
Sally Roser.
Yes, there you go. So we got two winners, Crystal and Shelly Roser. Last one, here we go. Minu, is Minu still here? M-I-N-N-U. If you're here, please unmute yourself. No. Okay, I'm gonna do one more. Oh, this is the same person, but I removed her. Okay, one more time. Sorry. Sonia? Okay, Sonia, can you please share your email address with me? Thank you.
This is great. Nehal, thank you so much for coming up with the Wheel of Fortune.
Sure, anytime, anytime. Thank you.
She is our treasurer, so she's the one with the money.
And Jigisha, I'm so happy to be here today, but I would also like to recognize that in addition to Fort Bend ISD parents who were invited and PACE members who were invited, we also have some people who are members of the Gifted Education Family Network, which is a statewide organization. And for folks who are looking for additional support on top of what PACE is trying to provide and what our school district is trying to provide, I would encourage them to reach out and just do what you can do, a Google search for the Gifted Education Family Network. The acronym is GEFN. So thanks to all the participants today. There was some lively chat and I love to see everybody so engaged.
No, thank you so much, Angie, for sharing that. And I will say that I had a lot of people reach out to me asking me if we were going to share the slides and share the recording. We will be sharing the slide deck for sure. As far as the video recording is concerned, I know earlier on when the board had met, the board had decided that we would not be sharing the video. But since a lot of you have asked, I am happy to go back to the board and take a vote. And if everybody agrees, we are happy to put the video up on our website. That way it can be beneficial. And I'm very happy to know that a lot of you found this presentation helpful and beneficial. I know a lot of us are facing the same things at home with our children, because no matter what we are professionally, at home we are parents first to our children. So, and Jenny, thank you so much. This was
You're
such
so
a
welcome.
presentation.
Oh, thank you so much. I loved being able to share.
And I will like to put a little plug in at the end. I know all of you may not be PACE members. We are a small but mighty group. Our membership is only $20 a year, but the $20 will give you amazing 4 events that we bring every year, and newsletters and emails that we send all our families and members. So please do consider being members of PACE. Our website is pacefortbend.org. If you guys can, and Angie, if you could type that in the chat box, if you could, and please help us, support us by becoming a member.
Yes, and if I can, Jigisha, I want to add on, if you do want to become a member and you do it on your iPhone, you are going to be golden. But if you do it through Google Chrome, it's going to give you an snap, and it's not going to let you do it. So if you will use a different browser like Mozilla Firefox, or I think Edge may even work, but for sure Mozilla Firefox. So we're just having some issue with the Chrome browser in our PayPal button on our website. So yes, and thank you, Lynn, for including our website down there in the chat.
Thank you. And Justin, yes, anyone can join. It's not only Fort Bend. In 1991, I believe, when PACE was created, it was named as the Fort Bend Association of Parents for Academic Excellence. But we do have members who are outside of Fort Bend, because essentially it's for parents. It's a support network group for parents. So please feel free to join. And thank you so much, everyone. We will see you at our next PACE event.
Thank you.